Hi, my name is Dr. Howell J. Deacon, physical therapist, and I was asked to put together a little ergonomics presentation for all of the employees at Acuity Insurance Group. My understanding is a lot of you guys are working from home, which I myself had to do. Currently, I'm back in the clinic working, but if you're like myself and you're not used to sitting down and working from home all day, yeah, that can get to be a little bit challenging. So a lot of the struggles that most of you guys at home have been dealing with, I think I too have also felt. So making this presentation, I don't think was too hard. So with me I have, I'm going to put my mask back on here. So with me I have Vivian. Vivian is currently interning at our clinic here. Vivian, go ahead and say hello.
Hi guys, I'm Devin, like LJ said. This is my 10-week internship. I'm close to halfway through. It's been a pleasure working with LJ and everyone else.
All right. So Vivian's going to be my model patient here. So currently what we have is a little setup in terms of what you can do when sitting down, okay? So I know not everyone has step boxes at their house, okay? But if you are using a laptop for your work, right? Or if you're using a desktop with a monitor, you can use a box, or you can use things like books or printing paper packages to vary the height of the monitor. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about what types of things you'd be shooting for when it comes to positioning your monitor height to the height that would be most advantageous for you when you're in a sitting position. So go ahead and take that. So ideally, if Vivian's sitting down here and we're talking just about monitor height, okay? Ideally, what you want is to get your monitor height to a point where your eyes are level with the top of the monitor, okay? So you can see if, go ahead and hold this, Vivian. So if you're working at home and you're just working from your laptop, right? What this tends to do is, in a prolonged position, right, your head is already coming down like this. And oftentimes, when you're working for longer periods of time, you tend to get what we call this forward head position. So people will tend to kind of, start to go closer and closer, and just hold right there, Vivian. What that tends to do is it shortens the muscles, right? So these are your upper chap muscles, and it also shortens some of the muscles in the front part of your neck. And a lot of times people will complain about tension that's building in their shoulders here, tension that may be building in the back of their necks here. They may even feel some tension back here. So if you're one of those people who, after working for a prolonged period of time, you start to feel tension building in any of these areas, some of this can stem from the fact that, how you're positioning yourself when you're sitting can be feeding into that. So again, let's go ahead and put Vivian back into a better position. Okay, so now if you look at how things change, right? So now, in order to see the center of the screen, he's more likely to want to look up and be straight ahead versus looking down. Okay? Next thing we're going to talk about is arm position. Okay? So typically what you would like to see is the arms to be at a 90-degree position here, okay? And so with your armrest, okay, I don't know if everyone has a fancy computer chair or office chair at home that has multiple adjustments. This one tends to have an adjustment where you can raise the armrest up and down, right? So you can lower it, you can raise it up, right? But if you look at what happens to Vivian's shoulder, when we're sitting at a surface and that's too high, right? It raises his shoulders up closer to his ears. This is something that you want to try to avoid, okay? This is like doing the same thing that having a monitor too low is going to do. It's reinforcing these muscles to become very shortened, right? We really want to get these muscles in a nice, relaxed state where it's supported, right? The opposite can happen if you don't have that support. So if you don't have that support, you're either going to lean, or if you're typing and let's just say you're supporting yourself, your muscles are going to always be active. They'll never get a chance to shut off, okay? So all of these things can lead to chronic tension in your shoulder muscles, which after a point in time could lead to headaches and things like that, all right? So 90 degrees here, right? And a nice position where your arm is supported. You should feel like your shoulder muscles basically can shut off, so to speak, okay? And now, Vivian, I'm gonna have you go ahead and slide forward, right? Okay, so this also helps to support Vivian's forearms when he's typing, right? So you should see that the forearm is supported, shoulder is supported, head aligned with the top of the screen there. Okay, these are all the things that you're shooting for. Now, let's see, right where you are, Vivian. Sometimes it can be beneficial to take a pillow or something to bridge the space between your chair. Okay, I find that a lot of office chairs, they don't really have, some of them do have a feature where you can bring out more support in the lumbar spine or the low back. Some of them don't, but if you're working for a long extended period of time, it does get a little fatiguing to maintain this position without any back support. So rather than chasing the back of the chair, right, which would then lead you into this slouch position here, right, and then you also see what tends to happen at the shoulders, which then changes the head. I would encourage you guys to try finding something. Okay, I have a pillow here. So, and this may take some finagling, right? So I have a pillow, right? This actually tends to work okay with it, right? I did try this a little bit before making the video. Sometimes you may not, because of the contour of the back of your office chair, putting a pillow straight down like this might not be the best solution. You might have to fold that pillow in half and just get the support there, right? So you might have to play around with this a little bit to find the position that feels the best. But ultimately what you're looking for is a position where you feel supported and relaxed. You shouldn't feel like there's a constant resting tone in your shoulder muscles, your arms, your forearms, or your neck muscles. Okay? Okay, moving on. So go ahead and slide out just a little bit, Vivian. All right. So I also want to talk about the relationship of your hips and feet relative to the chair and the ground. Okay? So in terms of finding the appropriate chair height, right? Again, I understand not everyone has an office chair, but if you do have a chair that you can adjust the height, what you'd like to look for is, so Vivian is kind of in a textbook position where his hips are slightly, right, his hips are slightly higher than his knees, okay? And so, do you know how to lower this chair? I think it might be, all right. So now, with Vivian in a lower position, what ends up happening here with his knees the same height, or if he was in a position where his knees were slightly higher, right, what would then tend to happen, we'll take this out, is it puts you in a position where you want to go into more of a slouched position, right? So with the knees higher up, right, it makes you want to round your back out a little bit more, right? Which is a little bit more of a slouch position. This is why sometimes it can be hard getting comfortable in cars. They have those bucket seats, they kind of suck you in. It feels nice for a minute, but if you're working for a long period of time, that's not going to be advantageous to you at all. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring that back up. Okay, now for individuals that are a little shorter, or maybe your legs are short, limbs aren't as long, raising the chair height up might basically put you at a position where your feet can't touch the ground. And if that's the case, you do want your feet to be able to touch the ground, because part of the purpose of getting your hips above your knees is so that you can actually start to put weight through your legs. So you don't want all of the gravitational forces just coming through the back. You want to be able to shift some of that and put some of that force through the ground. So I would recommend trying to find something like a stool. Now this is obviously too high for Bivin. Bivin doesn't really need anything, but basically, right, if his feet were dangling at this point, I would say, try and find something, a book or something, to slide underneath your feet so that you can put some weight through the ground there. Okay? All right. I think those are all our adjustments for the sitting posture. We will now move into standing. Okay, so we made some adjustments. Okay, it's not the best to spend your entire day just sitting. So I would advise to have a secondary option. So the ability to transform your office into, or your desk into more of a standing desk. Okay, so nothing fancy here, right? I think everything here you could basically find in some way, shape, or form in your house without having to purchase one of the more expensive standing desks. So again, here I just have a bunch of printing paper. You could transfer or substitute this for a box, books. Again, these you could substitute for a box. I think a U-Haul box would basically work just fine. But again, everything is going to be individualized to your height. Okay. So now when you're in the standing position, nothing changes about where the monitor height wants to be. You still want that monitor height so that your eyes, there you go, are at the top of the screen there. Okay. Sometimes it helps to have someone take a picture of you, so then you can actually step back and look and see how your own alignment is and see where you line up. Nothing changes about how you want your elbow and shoulder to be situated. Okay, obviously because you're not sitting down, you're not going to have anything underneath here. But the other thing that I didn't talk about was the wrist position when typing. Okay, a lot of times we'll get into a position where we're like this. Okay, and I'm sure you guys have all heard of the term carpal tunnel. This position tends to put a little bit more pressure on the wrist itself. Okay, so muscles are a little bit more tensioned, and the joint itself is under a little bit more pressure when you're in this overextended position. So something that might be worth investing in is a little pad. I'm sure you guys have seen those pads that you can put in front of your keyboard, and basically those pads are more so developed so that you can put your wrist in an optimal position, which is a little bit more in a slight bent position than it is extended. Now this is more so for a mouse, not necessarily for a keyboard, but just to illustrate, right, that pad is a little bit longer, and it would basically go right underneath your wrist just like that, to help when you're typing. Okay, and so for you when you're typing, you should feel like your hands can relax a little bit. You shouldn't feel a constant strain. Okay, Constant strain here is also going to lead to constant strain everywhere else, right? Because when you start tensing here, you start tensing here, you start tensing here. Everything starts to tense. So again, you're looking to achieve a position that things can be at an optimal resting state. Okay, so we'll take that. And then lastly, a little note on just like foot position. So if you're standing for quite some time, it's most beneficial to overall you're trying to be symmetrical with how you're loading your body. So if you're standing like this is great, but a lot of times I think when we're standing and typing or even washing dishes, we'll find ourselves doing the lean to one side, lean to the other side. Some people may cross their legs. You get into a lot of habits that you don't even think about. The best advice I can give is whatever you do on one side, do it to the other. Most optimal position is standing with weight evenly distributed and feet about the same distance apart. But some other things you can do is do like a staggered stance. So 1 foot in front, 1 foot in back for a little, all right? And then you can go ahead and switch, all right? And then you can also try, spreading the legs apart a little bit, so it's a slightly wider stance, okay? So these are just some things that you can play around with when you're standing for a prolonged period of time. Again, the goal is to try and be symmetrical about how you're loading your legs. All right, that's good.
Hi guys, so this time I'm going to talk about some stretches or exercises that we can do while we're either sitting and working or standing and working. I'll be demonstrating these exercises on Alvej. So Alvej, if you don't mind, turn around for me please. Like Alvej was saying, when we're sitting down on the chair, if the armrest is too low or if the armrest is too high, we have that tendency of shrugging our shoulders up. Alvej was saying this area here can get very tight, and that's something that we want to focus on, make sure that we can relieve the tension there. So a good stretch for your upper traps and upper neck muscles is, if Alvej, you can turn a little bit to your right, turn your head there. Good. We're going to aim for roughly 60 degrees, and then from this position, we're going to bring your left head to your left shoulder.
I'll be right down.
And here, Alvej, do you feel a stretch anywhere? Alright, so this stretch, you should feel it on the other side of where you're bending your head. And then if you come back to neutral. Now if you turn your head to the left, and again, bring that side of your head to your shoulder, you should again feel a stretch here. Now, doing this about 10 times, holding it for 10 seconds, will help relieve the tension. We can do this exercise, this stretch, maybe about 3 times a day. If you feel like you're noticing your shoulders are coming up higher and higher, it means that there's tightness and tension building up. So this stretch should help alleviate that. Another stretch that I want to focus on is not more of a stretch, it's more of a positioning. It's where our shoulder blades are at. So sometimes, if Alvej can turn this way, sometimes our shoulders are forward when we're typing, and that can cause a lot of dysfunctions in the back. A postural cue to help this out is if you kind of bring your shoulders forward, bring them up as high as you can, shrug them up, and then now bring your shoulders back and drop them down as low as you can. That right there is about the optimal shoulder blade positioning. Throughout the day while you're sitting, you're going to kind of come forward and forward. So maybe set a timer for every hour, 2 hours, to kind of help you remember to reposition your shoulder blades in this optimal position. And then our last stretch, Alvej, if you can turn around for me. Again, it goes along with that forward shoulder positioning where our head is forward, our shoulders are forward. We can really build up some tightness and tension here in our pec muscles. So a good stretch for that would be the doorway stretch. So if we use this frame here as our doorway, we're going to place our hand, somewhere that's comfortable. We're going to keep our arm at about that 90-degree level. We're going to have Alvej take a step forward with your left leg. And then Alvej is going to lean into his left leg. What you want to make sure is you're not bending forward at your trunk. you have this hip hinge where your trunk is moving at the hip. You're keeping that neutral spine, the chest is lying down, and you should feel a stretch coming through here. If you're not feeling a stretch with this, you can even, do you mind rotating to the left? Have them turn to the opposite side. Again, going along with that upper trap stretch. Again, 10 reps, 10-second holds throughout the day. 3 sets of that should help relieve the tension that you're feeling. And again, you're going to want to do this on both sides.
All right. Thank you.